Hi, my name is Tyra Burton, and I'm here today to tell you a little bit more about Google Forms. As you might can tell, I'm at the google.com page, and I've logged into my Google Plus or my Google account, however you would like to refer to it. And because of that, I have access now to my Google Drive. If you'll notice, there's 9 little dots here, and if you click on them, one of the things that will pop up in the list that you can choose from is the drive. So click on it, and suddenly you'll have a screen. Now your screen may be completely blank, where I've been using Google Drive for a very long time, and I have lots of documents in it. So that's why my screen has so much in it. Now, in the Google Drive, you can create a variety of types of documents. You can also upload documents as well. But if you click the Create button, you'll find out that you can create just basic documents, presentations, spreadsheets, forms, which we're going to talk about today, and drawings. Now, all of these, let's say you did a presentation, you could download it into a PowerPoint or Keynote file so that you could utilize it offline. Same is true with documents and spreadsheets. Now, forms are what I use to collect information for a variety of purposes. So I'm going to show you one that I've been using in class. This is the company submit form for my social media marketing class. And you'll notice that here's the title of it. I've given some instructions, and I've asked them 3 questions: who they are, what company they would like to use, and what their second choice would be if they needed to have one. Now, if I wanted to see what students would see when they looked at this, I would view the live form, and it would look like this. Now, when I started this form, I chose this background, and since it's a social media class, I thought birds kind of hinting at Twitter would be a good idea. And this is what you would see if you went to the full page. Now, you're probably wondering, how do I get it from here to D2L? D2L is very simple. Once you're in D2L, here's my form to submit company choice. I click on it, and this is what the form looks like within the D2L framework. They'll have to scroll down, but it's all there. It just looks like a miniature version of what you've seen before. So what happens when a student actually fills this out? Well, Google Drive is smart, and it creates a second file for you after you create a form, and it simply titles it the company submit form responses. So that's the cool thing. And guess what? It puts all my responses in here. So I used this summer, summer 2014 and fall 2014. And I just inserted 2 lines to indicate where the 2 semesters changed. I wanted to keep track of what organizations students were choosing, and this was an easy way to do that for me. So here I have the list. This is students' actual responses. Now, that's great, but how do I let students know that they can't choose a particular company? Because I only let them, only one person can do any company. Well, I created a document, and I called it the Chosen Company List, and here it is. And this is a Word document within Google Drive. And all I did was I took my company submit form responses, and I cut and pasted them into the Word doc. And guess what? I let my students have access to this. If I go back to D2L, you'll see it says Chosen Company List. And here is that Google document showing them what companies have already been chosen. And this is something that I wipe every semester and start filling in again with the companies as students choose them. So that's how easy that is. So now let me show you another use for Google Forms, and that's feedback. So for this very class, for social media 4520, for the orientation folder, I had created a form that asked a variety of questions. So here you can see I've titled it Feedback, Start Here, Orientation. And I asked a variety of Likert scale questions about the course instructions, etiquette explanations, the syllabus, was it easy to understand? What about the schedule? Course expectations, the icebreaker, and I asked for suggestions. Now, this form, if you view the live view, you'll see what it looks like on the full screen. So it looks pretty good. And actually, Google Forms can be an easy way to have a short survey to collect information. Now, if you look, of course, it's created me a response, and here it is. 4520 Start Here Orientation Responses. It automatically creates this file. And you'll notice it also exports all of my data so that I can read hey, what did every student give me on those points, and their suggestions if they had any. You'll also notice it doesn't link it back to a particular student. It doesn't tell me the IP address, and I don't ask them their name when they fill it out, because let's face it, when you're asking for feedback, anonymity is really a great thing. It does still give me the time and date stamp, so I have an idea of if they actually replied during the appropriate time frame. Now, if we go back to D2L, let me show you where this is on my listing. So we're going to have to go to the Orientation Start Here folder, and down here at the very bottom is where I put the feedback. When they click on that, they will, of course, see the form within the D2L framework. So all this is fine and good, but how do you actually create one? So how do you actually create one? We're back in my Google Drive, I click on Form, and it brings up a blank one. Now you see how it says Untitled Form here? And when you mouse over it, it says Rename. All you have to do is click on it. So we're going to title this Google Example and click OK. Now let's say you don't like that name after all. All you have to do is go back, click on it, and you can change the name again. Or in my case, you probably misspelled something. I do that all the time. Now, there's a variety of different questions that you can ask within Google Forms, and it gives you a chance to title your question. Really what they're asking you for there is to put the question. You can give some help text if people need it, and then you can decide on what type. In this case, it was a multiple choice. You could do a check boxes, choose from a list. You can do a scale, a grid, a date, or a time. And you can also do text or paragraph text. So let's just take a look at some of these, and we'll start with the multiple choice. So I can ask a question of, do you use Google Docs? I don't really need to explain anything, but I'm going to have to type in my options, yes and no. So once I'm done, I hit done, and it's now created that question for me. And if I want to add an item, I'm going to click here. And maybe my next question will be, how often do you use Google Docs? And I'm going to make this another multiple choice question, but I'm going to actually make it a scale. And you see it tells me, hey, what do you want to make it 1 to 5, and then label them. And it could be from never to frequently. And I can even make this a required question if I want to. I click done, and look, it's created for me a scale question. Let's add another just to see what they look like. For this one, let's choose a choose from a list. And I'm going to have which of the following do you use? And I'm going to put each of the different types. So there's a document type, there's a presentation type, that's that PowerPoint one. There's a drawing function, there's forms, and of course, there's spreadsheets. And I'm going to click done. And now, when somebody goes to answer it, there'll be a drop-down function for them to choose from. Now, let's say that I decided that that really wasn't exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to be able to tick them off. I can click edit, and I can go back and change it to checkboxes. And now that question looks like this. So now they can choose whatever they want. Now let's say I wanted to ask them to explain how they use Google Docs. I can go right here. I can make it a paragraph or a text. I'm going to make it a paragraph because that gives them a little bit longer. And again, I can hit done, and it gives me it in my sheet. Now, the other thing you can do here is, if you'll notice, my icon changes a little bit. I can grab this, and I can move it so that I can rearrange these questions however I want. See, isn't that really cool? And there's also a confirmation page if you need it. And we can just keep on adding questions for as much as we want. But let's say I don't really need this one. I can click the delete button. Or maybe I want to create another scale question. I can duplicate this and just go in and change my question. I could ask, how easy is it for you to use Google Docs? And then instead of never and frequently, I could have not easy at all to very easy. Click done, and there's my question. And notice if I didn't like it here, I could move it to another place. So let me do that. There we go. Now, when we view the live form, this is what it looks like. And you'll notice that maybe it's a little boring. It doesn't look quite as interesting as the one I was using before. So let's go back to this one. And now I can click Change Theme. And theme allows me to choose different ones to utilize. And as you can see, there's a bunch of them over here on the right-hand side. And you know what? I really like this one, so I'm going to use it. Or maybe I decide, okay, that's not right. I could choose a different one. You can choose from a variety of them, and when you're happy, you can just go back to the Edit Questions and work on that. If you don't remember what it looks like, choose View Live Form. And there we go. That's how easy it is to create a Google form. And now if I go back to my Google Drive, see how it has the Google Examples form? And look, it's created me a spreadsheet of the Google example responses. Now, last but certainly not least, you're probably wondering, how do you insert this into your class? Well, go over here and click on the Send Form. And there's a couple of different ways you could do this. You could share a link, which would take them out of D2L. You can send it to them by email. You can post it via social media, or you can embed it. And if you click on Embed, you can copy and paste this, just like they say. Not easy. You can even change the width and the height, but I tend to leave it at those numbers that they chose. And click Done. Now you've got to go into D2L. And this is just the table of contents, and I'm going to insert something in here because it'll be easy. I'm going to go New, Create File. And I need to title this. I'm just going to make it Example. And I'm going to click this button right here. This is the button where you can insert stuff. Great title, isn't it? And I've got an embedded code. So I'm going to click the last one that says Enter Embedded Code. And now I just paste what Google Docs gave me in there and click Next. It's blocking my content, so all I have to do is click Allow, and now it's got it loaded in. Once I click Insert and go back here, it's now in the file. I'm going to click Publish, and there it is, looking just like the other Google Forms that you've seen me use today. So my students now, if I go back to that folder, it'll be the last one on the list because that's where they happen to insert them in D2L. I can click on it, and there it is. And don't forget, within D2L, you can, of course, rearrange where they see it. So that's a real quick walk on how you use Google Forms. Remember, you can use them to collect information, get feedback, and disseminate information as well. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, I'm tberto13 at kennesaw.edu. Thanks for listening.